Ultros is one of the most interesting Metroidvania games that I've played in a very long time. Looking at it right from the jump on the Steam store page, I mean, the colors just stick out. It looks just weird and different in a way that I wasn't sure if I was going to like it when we first jumped into the game. Ultros is self-described as a psychedelic Metroidvania where you wake up stranded on the Sarcophagus. And what is that? It's a cosmic uterus, whatever that means, holding an ancient demonic being. So you're trapped in the loop of a black hole where you have to explore the sarcophagus and meet its inhabitants to understand the part you play. So all of that is extremely true, and as confusing as all that sounds, that's exactly how confusing the game's story is. I have no idea what's going on. To be fair, I had no idea what was going on in Hollow Knight the first time I played through it, so you can live with it. It's definitely a gameplay first type of game, and it's interesting. It's out there. It's for sure psychedelic with the art and the story. The story is way out there. So you wake up on some sort of spaceship, you're not sure why you're there, and you're trying to unlock some sort of demon thing by destroying these locks, but the locks are actually like these mummies. I don't understand how it all works together. I'm just really confused in general when it comes to the stories, but to be fair, that's kind of how Hollow Knight was too. I had no idea what was going on with Hollow Knight. It's a very, very long time. You get very far into the game, you're left with nothing in Hollow Knight. In this one, they kind of tried to tell you what's going on, but it makes no sense. It's a bunch of gobbledygook, right? So the Metroidvania aspects lean towards the Metroid side of the house, meaning it leans way more on the exploration as opposed to the combat. And that said, the combat looks and does feel pretty good. So this game was released on February 13th, 2024. The developer is Hadoque. I'm probably butchering that, and the publisher is Kepler Interactive. So the time it takes to beat this is probably between 12 and 15 hours, depending on if you get super stuck. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the overall gameplay. So the controls feel really good and they're responsive. Overall, it feels good to play. The combat has more to it than Hollow Knight, with combos and a way to dodge, to counterattack, with a few air attacks. No spells or soul, but it's more fast-paced. So the main new mechanic with attacking is the need to do multiple different attacks to get better meat, which is just experience from your prey, which is just whatever it is that you're attacking. So if you spam the same attacks over and over and over again, you're gonna get like bad meat or bad experience, and then you'll just get less experience overall. But if you do different attacks, you do a regular attack, a charge attack, an up attack, etc., then you're gonna get prime meat or whatever they end up calling it. The experience is used for an upgrade tree that's not too complicated. Depending on what food you eat, you get one of 4 different types of experience. It's just color coded, so you have to have the right color of experience to unlock certain types of upgrades. That said, each loop you will reset all of your upgrades and start at the very beginning, unless you have like a memory upgrade, and then you can perma unlock one of the upgrades. But you don't have to worry, because let's say you perma unlock the wrong upgrade and you decide you don't like that one, you can actually change it later, which I found fantastic, because I definitely unlocked some things that I didn't really care for all that much, and being able to switch it back and forth was super helpful. The 2 new mechanics that this game relies on heavily are, 1, your gardening, and 2 is like this tool that you can upgrade. So the gardening requires that you plant the correct plants to solve different puzzles. So basically you can put a seed into the ground and it'll grow either some sort of tree or some sort of plant or whatever. And if you put the correct plant down, it will help you progress in the game. And on top of that, later on, you'll get this tool that'll then let you uproot the plants. It'll also let you do double jump, or it will let you connect the consciousness of the entire spacecraft. It sounds out there, and it is. It's different. But yeah, there's a couple of little things that you can do with that tool that get upgraded as you go through each of the different loops. Most of the time, whatever type of plant you need, you can find the seed pretty close to wherever you're able to plant the stuff, and so it's pretty straightforward. It's not until later on in the game you almost need to memorize all of the different plants or the seeds and what plants it will grow into to be able to figure out what's actually going to help you. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting a ton of time like going through each seed, trying to remember what each one grows into. that part can get a little bit tedious. You might even want to make yourself like notes as you're playing through the game to make it a little bit easier. Overall, the new mechanics are very, very unique. I like them, and it's something that I've just never seen before, so it was fun to just try something different. The core gameplay is a big loop where you get to the end of a path, usually the only one available, and then destroy a thing which helps you unlock the Ultros. You don't have to worry about what that is so much when you're first starting out. Just know that you're trying to get to the end where there's something that looks like a sarcophagus, and then you destroy it, and then you start back off at the beginning. Any plants you began to plant, after one loop, not only do you lose all your experience, but the plants that were starting to grow will grow much bigger, and then they will help you get a little bit further in. There are some times where it is possible to take more than one path, but usually it feels like there's probably only one correct path. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 as you get into like later on in the game, but usually you need a very specific tool to progress in a very specific path. To me, it felt a little bit more like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, where there were multiple different ways that you could go, but then once you started down that path, there was only one way to go. The bosses weren't too terribly tough. When you die, you respawn literally right there, just outside the room of where you died. There was no death penalty or anything like that. You didn't lose your loot or your seeds or anything like that. I didn't really understand the point of the save pods because there was no punishment for all the deaths. Maybe there was a difficulty thing that you got to choose at the beginning of the game and I just forgot. That's probably on me. There might have been a note for those save pods. Before we get into the controls and feel, the visual art style, and so forth for Ultros, I don't normally make game reviews like this, but let me know so far how it's going with a like or even a subscribe if you're interested in this. I want to check out more Metroidvania games and review them like this in the future. So yeah, just let me know how this is going. So as I said earlier, the controls feel good, they're tight, the combat is responsive and fair. There were a few mechanics that didn't feel quite as good, specifically trying to connect the consciousness as I was describing earlier. Sometimes I couldn't get it to work properly because I would put down the wrong plants and then I'd have to cycle through each and every plant to figure out which one plant could connect the correct way in the correct spot. That was the only thing mechanically or control-wise that I got a little bit frustrated, and it was much further into the game. But overall, all of the different mechanics felt good. And yeah, I'm really liking the game. As far as the visuals and art style go, the art style is totally unique to any game I've ever played. Like, it's almost too much going on, but that said, I personally liked it. It clearly looks like some sort of psychedelic acid trip. Super vivid colors. There's something new in every area, so the game felt fresh the whole way through by not using a ton of the same assets that were just recolored. One thing I would have liked to have seen more variety with is the enemies. There was a lot of the same enemies used throughout the various different areas. And if you want to explore everything that Ultros has to offer in terms of the vivid colors, make sure to check out today's sponsor, Lenovo. Lenovo Legion is sponsoring the channel right now, and if you want to be able to experience everything you can with Ultros, check out some of their amazing gaming PCs. Look at these. This one's 28% off, 31% off. They've got awesome computers that are on discount. Be sure to check back here often. There's a link in the description down below. I would really appreciate it. They also have those sweet, sweet gaming laptops, which I'm on right now. I'm on a gaming laptop in order to be able to make this video. So check them out. Thank you for sponsoring Lenovo Legion, and let's get back to the review. I feel like you could get a ton of lore from just looking at the background of the game, because there's lots of eyes and statues. I'll leave that to somebody else as far as like trying to pick apart the lore. I've never been good at figuring out lore. The level design was really good. There were lots of times, more so early, when it was very obvious where you were supposed to go and how you're supposed to like progress into the game. It wasn't until I was more than halfway through the game before I ever got lost and I wasn't sure which path to take or where to go. There were a few places where I ultimately found the correct place to go, but I didn't understand the correct way to hit a specific block, like in the ceiling or on the floor, in order to progress. It was like kind of hidden, which I wasn't a big fan of the way that was. I mean, I'm getting pretty good at Metroidvanias, so I was able to figure it out, but I have a feeling that some people are gonna get frustrated. But you know what? That's kind of what makes a Metroid. It's the exploring and figuring stuff out. The visuals never bothered me, but there is a slider in the settings in order to dial down the background visuals so it doesn't get too overwhelming, which I thought was nice. Also, a slider for the difficulty if any of the bosses are giving you too much trouble as well. The music was good and felt appropriate. I don't have too much to write home about as I was playing on a Steam Deck the whole time in a busy area. When I did get a chance to put on headphones and really listen in, I enjoyed what was there. I just distinctly remember a lot of slash sounds and the sounds of squishing enemies that were being destroyed, more so than the music itself. So the pacing of the game felt very different from any Metroidvania game I had ever played. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or a great thing, it was just different. The first time through a loop, which was very straightforward, teaches you about planting and upgrading abilities and so on. Then, by the time you finish the loop, you start from the very beginning with no upgrades unlocked, and the plants you planted earlier are just now bigger. You even have to go get your starting weapon again, and the NPCs have the exact same dialogue. It threw me off for sure the first time I went through, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't a Metroidvania, this is something different. Is this a roguelite? And it kind of feels like that early on because it resets your progression so quickly, but then as you get further and further into the game, the loops last longer and longer, mostly because it just takes longer and longer to get to the ends. So then it starts to feel way more like a Metroidvania, and you also start keeping more of your upgrades in different things like that. It's definitely a Metroidvania. Let's just put it that way. Ultros was way more focused on exploration than with the combat. There was a heavy emphasis on using the different mechanics like the planting tool or whatever the new ability that was unlocked, then you knew that was the way that you needed to go. The bosses were not total pushovers, but they were not crazy difficult either. I didn't ever fully understand the story. It feels like they were speaking a different language half the time, and I started to skip it. I was just playing for the gameplay, which was fine with me. I was just enjoying what I was playing, even if I didn't understand exactly what was going on. At the end of the day, that is mainly what I personally want out of a video game. I don't want to read a book as I'm playing video games. I just want that sweet gameplay. Next up, let's talk about difficulty. The game wasn't too difficult from a combat perspective. There was a little bit of a spike on some of the bosses, but after learning the attack patterns, they weren't too bad. I mean, that's just about any boss, but these ones specifically, it might have taken a handful of time to get some of the bosses down. It wasn't so bad. And again, there was also that slider I was telling you about earlier to where you could reduce incoming damage if you needed to. I personally would never touch that slider, but that's just me. You do you. I'm not going to judge you. The main part where the game gets difficult is if you get lost and you have no idea where to go. It's possible that you were in the right place, but it's confusing to understand what you need to do to progress. The past example I was talking about was hitting a breakable wall on the floor of the ceiling. I remember specifically I was trying to do an up attack where you do kind of like this, I don't know, it's an attack into the air. But apparently it wasn't enough to be able to hit the ceiling, but it looked like it was hitting the ceiling. And so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But other than that, the progress was pretty good. Overall, it was fun to explore and figure everything out. I could see some people getting stuck and frustrated, but if you stick with it, I think it's a good game. If you enjoy the Metroid side of the house when it comes to playing Metroidvanias, then I think that you're going to enjoy this with the way the exploring and stuff goes. Overall, Ultros is a unique Metroidvania that's worth experiencing at a price tag of $25. I think this one is short and sweet. It's hard to compare to Hollow Knight because it's so different, but I enjoyed my time with Ultros, and I think that most Metroidvania fans, especially fans of Ori and Metroid, are going to enjoy this game. Let me know if you played Ultros or if you're planning on playing it. Leave me a comment down below what you think of the game and also what you think of the review, because I'm going to try my hand at doing a few more of these. Thank you so much to my members for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching all the way in. My name is Relyea. I'll talk to you again more real soon. Thanks. Bye.